Microaggressions, wake up your inner leader and react. Here to talk to you about it, Michalina Konkel, leadership consultant at Diversity Hub. Good morning, Michalina. How are you?
Good morning, Łukasz. Good morning, everyone.
Oh, I can't hear you. I need to unmute, I'm afraid.
I'm unmuted.
Let's give it another try. Let's see if the studio can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself. Try clicking the third button.
What about now?
Yeah, now it's much better. Good morning again.
So good morning, Łukasz. Good morning, everyone. I will talk about microaggressions, but I will welcome everyone also with a heart.
And it's wonderful, it's absolutely wonderful to see you giving us this radiant smile before talking about microaggression.
Yeah.
Michalina, what are they? Microaggressions. I mean, on a purely intuitive level, we experience some of it. I'm sure all of us have experienced microaggression. It also depends on our radar, I suppose, how sensitive we are. People have different sensitivities. But what are they, microaggressions?
Microaggressions are, all this, as you said before during panel discussion, all these tiny things, tiny incidents which happen daily, and they are very common. They are verbal or behavioral or even environmental. So these are all these small behaviors which make other people feeling dismissed, ignored, or singled out.
What about, you said they are verbal, behavioral, they develop in the context of the company, but I would even say they start with mimicry, don't they? They are really micro in the sense that sometimes they are almost on the ambiguity borderline, in the sense that someone is a little sarcastic, a little ironic, a little unresponsive, or lacks basically some elementary emotional response. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, this is very true. As you said, because they can be conscious and unconscious. They are all based on, on unconscious bias, which we are having, which we have been soaked in our culture during our education, our cultural training, I would say. So we do them very often unconsciously. There is this researcher. You ask everybody about the research, so I have prepared this time.
I believe I've given you enough time.
Yeah, because I'm on the fourth day. Yeah, so Daryl Sue is writing about different aspects, different types of microaggressions, and one of them are connected with micro assaults. So it means that we are using consciously some words which we know that are discriminatory, or we behave in a way that is discriminatory, but we don't tend to offend. It's it's not our intent to offend anyone, but we know that the expression can be discriminatory. To give you an example, if we see someone who is dressed in rainbow t-shirt, we can say, "Oh, it's so gay." Yeah, so that would be micro assault. Or being on our Polish ground, actually, and not talking only about differences when it comes to these identities, primary identities. It's also about place where we come from, like town or village. In Poland, we also have this saying, "You villager." Yeah, it would be also like.
I think, Michalina, you're giving us, yes, very important examples, and they touch on discrimination, but is it really about discrimination that much as it is about being hateful, whether deliberate or not? We just do it. Even just imagine a conversation like ours. Imagine, instead of looking at you and smiling from time to time, I was kind of looking at my notes all the time and making a sad face. Oh, I'm so bored with her. So imagine how that would impact the level of comfort. Even if you're a strong personality, if you've gone through a lot, that would be really uncomfortable. Likewise, when you're in a conference center, at conference, in a live version, which is next year's version of D&I Changemakers 2021, and you see everyone looking at their laptops and smartphones and basically ignoring you. So these things can be really subtle. It doesn't have to be, "Oh, you look so gay in your rainbow t-shirt." these things are much
Of
smaller,
course.
aren't they?
They are and not. I mean, the ones which you are mentioning, they are also microaggressions, but not only. What's also microaggression is, for example, microinvalidations. So it means like I believe a lot of women is watching our conversation, listening to our conversation, and at the moment, and many of us have experienced this micro-invalidation. So what it means, it's when someone is questioning your experience. So let's assume that we are having this conference, and you're ignoring me, you're not looking at me, you're just, looking at your notes. And then I'm saying, hi, I think I was ignored, Łukasz didn't listen to me. And someone would say, oh, you're overreacting. Come on, get over this. You're so experienced, so get over that.
Or you're a professional. Come on. After all, you're here to
Exactly.
say something, not look at the facilitator. Exactly.
Exactly. And all these micro-invalidations, actually, in my opinion, are the ones which undermine inclusive culture mostly. These are the ones which are questioning experience of others. And especially if we focus on creating diverse workplace, people are diverse, so they will experience things differently. Yeah. So
And I suppose,
question.
Michalina, is it fair to say that this might be one of the reasons why we remember the very first things we experience so well? The first day we come to a company, the first day we meet someone in a professional environment, their body language. This is something almost atavistic. I mean, it's so internal that we don't even analyze it often, but we just know if this person is hostile, discriminatory. We don't have to attach a label, just know.
I would say yes, and I would extend this thought because, as you said, in this first moment of entering new environment, it's not only about hostility but about differences. Yeah, I enter a new company and people will behave differently. Maybe they will greet differently. As Jessica said, yes, her experience in Dutch company, and it's we can perceive it as hostile, but actually it's just different. Can be just different. And sometimes it can be microaggressions as well.
I think we have a fascinating case study coming up today. I will not even share the name for everyone to wait for the upcoming sessions, but I think it will be hugely interesting to relate all these things we are talking about to a very specific personal case study. Tell me, just make it a little more challenging on you, Michalina. Tell me, how have you ever caught yourself in a classic microaggression situation for various reasons? Sometimes we are tired, annoyed by factors that have nothing to do with a particular person. But can you think of a situation where it really mattered and you felt actually sorry on the inside that you allowed those external factors to cause microaggressions in your behavior?
Sure. I mean,
And you don't
as you
look
said,
that.
As you said in the beginning, all of us are experiencing them, and we are all perpetrators in a way. I mean, each of us is doing that. I can openly say that actually, yeah, I'm doing that every day to my kids, and I'm not proud of that. And probably many of us do that. So it's the same in the workplace when when we are stressed and we are not able to fully control ourselves, to be aware actually of our state, then these microaggressions are more prone to get out. And actually, it sounds like a vicious circle, yeah, because like microaggressions are causing more stress, and more stress will cause more microaggressions.
So let's push this discussion because I think we have established enough background and enough context to take it to company level. Is it even possible that microaggressions are the result of careless, inadequate, not thoughtful and considerate enough implementation of D&I? I mean, can you increase microaggressions by mismanaging D&I?
Yes, definitely.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah, I mean, if some companies are, just the beginners in the field, and they just heard that it's good to have a diverse workforce, and they are trying to put all people together without any supportive action, without creating inclusive culture. This diversity can really create such tension that these microaggressions can appear more often, actually, like our last client, that was the case, because the company wanted to have the equal number of men and women in the company. And the tension was so big for the men to accept these women, but it was just tension. There was no tools, no support. And the microaggressions were like, every conversation was full of microaggression. When we just had the first conversation with client, we already saw it, we already hear it, we already experienced that. So pure diversity without inclusion will cause microaggressions for sure.
So what you're saying, Michalina, really is that if one of you out there watching us today are thinking, we don't have a D&I policy yet, we would like to have one because it's good on paper, it's good in reports and bulletins, it's good to show off in the outside world, and you're not feeling it on the inside, not to mention how to actually implement it and how to provide the support structure that Michalina is talking about, don't even touch this field. Is this what you're saying, Michalina?
Yeah, or touch it very, step-by-step approach. Seriously, I mean, microaggressions, they are micro behaviors, micro statements, but they have huge impact. You can't imagine, people are, on their physical level, blood pressure, like all stress, immune system, well-being, cognitive capabilities, and workplace experience, like, performance, like being in a team, all that stuff.
Michalina, you bring me back to the conversation I had with Barbara McCloskey when she talked about one of the symptoms of resistance being withdrawal. So I suppose the consequence of people experiencing microaggressions is, well, one, if they have strong personalities, they tend to respond with microaggressions. If they don't, or if they want to be smart or diplomatic about it, they withdraw, but at the same time, they make a clear distinction. This is not a person whom I can trust. This is not a person who is authentic and genuine. So I should just adapt and act accordingly. This is how they would think. Do you know what I mean?
Not fully, to be honest. I didn't get the last.
Because imagine you're facing an executive who is offering you all sorts of microaggressions. How do you respond? One way to respond is to withdraw and accept this is what this person is like, and the choices I have are quite limited. Either I just absorb all those microaggressions, or I respond accordingly, or I just understand that this person is just so intellectually, emotionally limited.
I would say that, if it's executive, the situation is more complex because it can already be mobbing. And this is like a different aspect of cooperation, let's say. I would say that if already executives, there are microaggressions on that level, so a lot of mistakes have been made before. So the best option is actually to react as soon as possible. Yeah. So to engage everyone actually in be aware of what microaggressions are. And when you said about this, can microaggressions be byproduct? So yes, they can be. And in the same time, in a healthy organization where everything works, we can learn from these microaggressions. We can talk about it. I can say, oh gosh, again, you didn't look at me, come on. Yeah, so we are using that.
Please tell me, where do we see most of it? I mean, microaggressions. Where, if you're in search of microaggressions in an organization, where do you find most of it?
They are in both levels, as we said, behavioral and language. So nowadays, I would say they're very visible during our online conferences. To what extent do we dismiss some people during our calls? Do we focus on everyone or not? Do we omit always certain people? Because this is the thing. To give you an example, I cooperate very often with IT companies, and what is visible there, it's a myth of meritocracy. But actually, the playing field is even for everybody. So if the women would like to be there, they should have more skills. They should be more knowledgeable, and why not? And this is also an example of microaggression. Other one is talking about multicultural aspects, is that I'm cooperating with my friend from, not friend, a colleague from Italy, and I was like, oh, you're so different than all Italians. Yeah, so I'm imposing that you should behave in a different way, and I'm surprised. Or, oh, you speak such a good Polish, even though someone was born here but look differently. Yeah, so it's, and this is
really
we don't have. Sorry.
You're essentially touching on a broader field, like biases, stereotypes, cliches that we have about countries' cultures, and obviously we need to be representative of entire culture.
Łukasz, all of them are ending up in microaggressions if they are not addressed properly.
Speaking of addressed properly, where is the responsibility? Who should do that and how?
Yeah, I would say that most people would have this assumption that someone who is experiencing microaggression should react. But when you're a victim or when you're an addressee of microaggression, you don't have enough power usually to do that, especially when it happens again and again and again. You start feeling guilt, or you even feel that you deserve it. So the best option actually is to engage as a bystander. So stop to be bystander, but wake up your inner leader and react. So what you can do, I advise you 3 steps. First, notice and observe. If you already know about microaggressions, start noticing them around you, noticing them when you say them or when you experience them, and decide internally if you would like to react or not. Yeah, you don't have to react yet, but just make this decision for yourself if you're eager to react. Second thing is make microaggression visible. So whenever you hear it, you can say, and you decide to react, you can say, oh, did you really mean that? Or, can you elaborate more on this topic? Or one of the good advice is to make a noise. You can say, ouch. Yeah, so to let the other person know that something is not right. And the last step is to recall policies and procedures which are present in the workplace to remind that there are some safety boundaries inside the organization, if there are.
Michalina Konkel, leadership consultant, or maybe I should be saying chief perpetrator at Diversity Hub. Michalina, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for finding the time, and stay with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Goodbye.